Welcome, shadowed hearts and seekers of the dark. Tonight, I weave for you a tale of shifting perception and insidious truth, and remind you how fragile reality truly is. Come closer. It begins. Cassie Silverman was the kind of person who needed everything to make sense. Spreadsheets, lists, graphs, they dictated her life. She worked as an inventory manager at a vast warehouse filled with rows upon rows of unending crates. Numbers don't lie, she would confidently declare. For Cassie, numbers were her sanctuary. Solid, absolute. But oh, how the universe loves to tease those who trust certainty. It was on a Tuesday morning, so boringly normal that it felt like an insult. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above her workspace as she keyed in stock counts. Her pen rolled off the desk, and as she stooped to grab it, she noticed something peculiar. The crate at the far end of aisle 17 had shifted? She brushed it off. Maybe someone moved it during the night shift. However, as the hours ticked by, Cassie noticed more crates subtly repositioning. Not by much, just enough to leave her questioning herself. "This warehouse is playing tricks on me," she muttered, shaking the thought away. But then it happened again, and again. Not just crates this time. Walls seemed to stretch, ceilings loomed taller. In the strangest way, the room felt like it was breathing. Cassie consulted her assistant, Jamie. "Do you notice anything weird with the placements today?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. Jaime frowned, checking his clipboard. "Everything seems fine," he replied, flashing her an odd look. That odd look stayed with her, a splinter lodged too deep to pull out. The creeping oddities continued that week. Every time she glanced away, then returned her gaze, her surroundings didn't match her memory. Pens weren't where she left them. Papers carried new creases. Whenever she tried to report it, a cold sweat followed, leaving her tongue leaden. How could she articulate this chaos? How could she explain something happening in whispers too low to hear? That Friday, she stayed late. The unsettling silence of the warehouse swallowed even her own breathing. She decided it was time to confront the issue head-on. Carrying a flashlight, and determination she wasn't sure she actually felt, she walked into aisle 17. The beam of the flashlight bounced off crates, gleaming with an almost exaggerated sheen, as though the wood were sweating. There it was again, a crate shifting. She saw it plainly this time. It skidded 2 inches to the left before coming to a stop. An unseen force had moved it. The realization crawled into her mind like ice through veins, chilling her entirely. She stepped closer, almost hypnotized, her hand trembling as she reached for the crate. Time slowed. Then, the crate burst apart. Not violently, but silently, like an illusion dissolving under the gaze of reality itself. What should have been splintered wood pecked her hands with cold, metallic dust. She staggered back, staring in horror as the wall behind it began to ripple, like heat waves scintillating over asphalt. She wasn't just seeing shifts in the room, she was watching reality itself unravel. Words formed in her head, not thoughts, but intrusions. Sharp edges blend, perception bends. The voice wasn't hers. The words wrapped around her mind, squeezing thoughts apart. She sprinted back to her desk, her heels clicking in harmony with her pounding pulse. Her desktop computer was flashing on its own, data filling the screen. Numbers rolled up and down, symbols morphing faster than her eyes could track. And then, something caught her attention amidst the chaos. Her name. It was written there, intertwined within equations so impossibly complex, they looked alive. Cassie Silverman. A name made as fragile and malleable as the numbers she trusted so dearly. The screen darkened. When it flickered back to life, it displayed a video feed. Her, watching herself. But it wasn't right. Cassie stared, horrified, as her reflection on the screen moved independently, smirking back, mouthing what seemed to be, "This isn't about you anymore." What did that mean? Cassie bolted from her desk, desperate for air. But as she dashed into the open expanse of the warehouse, it wasn't the space she remembered. The aisles no longer followed Euclidean geometry. They twisted, spiraled upward, defied gravity, all shimmering with unearthly light. She remembered reading somewhere that there were some truths the human mind wasn't built to behold. Was this one of those? Figures began emerging, silhouettes without substance, shadowy tendrils that slid into humanoid forms. They looked like folded origami, impossibly intricate yet fluid, bending into her reality only to retreat a moment later. Their voices echoed, unintelligible but eerily rhythmic, more like a mantra than a sentence. Cassie fell to her knees, pressing her hands to her ears. And yet, the sound was inside her head. It grew louder, more insistent. Words bloomed unbidden once more. Construct ends. Begin anew. When her trembling opened eyes, she was standing by her car in the parking lot outside the warehouse. She didn't remember how she'd gotten there. Only the unnerving sensation of being plucked out of somewhere she didn't belong. The warehouse's lights hummed steadily, cold and unfeeling against the void of the twilight sky. Nothing seemed out of place, and yet everything was wrong. The next morning, she received an email marked urgent. The sender? A series of numbers, nonsensical and without context. Inside the email was a single attachment, a video file. Against every scream from her gut warning her not to, she clicked. It played footage of the warehouse, empty, grainy, yet alive in a way that defied explanation. But it wasn't empty for long. The figures returned, their movements liquid and ritualistic. They stopped abruptly and looked directly at the camera. Then, in unison, they whispered, "Watch her." Cassie's chest heaved, unable to draw breath. She slammed her laptop shut and sank to the ground, rocking back and forth. Her fortress of numbers, of facts and logic, had crumbled into dust. Reality wasn't ours to keep. It never was. And now, neither was she. Did you feel that turn of the key, my dear listener? Perceptions skewed and truths laid bare. If you ever find your world subtly changing, double check. Was it ever really yours? This has been another shadow from the anthology of terrifying tales, Echoes of the Dark. Until next time, keep your grip firm on reality, if you can. Sweet, frightful dreams.